Hi, I'm Nancy, and I like to help agents make more money in real estate and have a better time doing it and help more people find their dream homes. So, if you like my channel, please subscribe, hit the like button on my videos, and I'll be sure to bring you more tips and tricks on how to do that. First thing today I want to talk about is getting your offer accepted in a multiple offer situation. And this can be tricky in today's market. But one thing, and I have a little story that goes along with it, was number one, is make sure your buyer, when they're coming to look at homes with you and they see something they really want, that they do have the way of writing a check right away to make a deposit on that property instead of 3 days after contract or 5 days after contract accepted or whatever. And here's why. Last week we had a circumstance where a contract was accepted through a competitive agent on one of our listings, and it was 3 days after contract that the money was to show up. He went back home 3 days after contract. Guess what didn't happen? The money did not show up. 4 days, no money. 5 days, 6 days, 7th day, and the listing agent in our company was very diligent staying on top of this. Morning of the 7th day, there was no money showing up that had shown up for deposit on that house. So the buyer was completely in breach of contract. Actually, that kind of null and voids the contract if there's no money on it when it says on the contract there's money on it. So what happened that day? Another buyer came along, bought the house, and that buyer was out. But before that happened, our listing agent did the right thing, notified the other agent, there's no money on that house, your buyer's in breach, here's a cancellation of the contract. Sent it to the other agent. The afternoon, the money showed up, but the house was already sold to another buyer. So a buyer lost his dream home because he didn't come in with a deposit on time. Realtor did not advise him to do that. So let's advise the buyers that are especially coming from out of state. Let's have a deposit ready to put on a house because you could be in a multiple offer situation. Big lesson there this week. Okay, another thing is to keep your contracts clean. And what I mean by clean is not crazy contingencies in there of their house selling or closing or asking for a lot of extra things like the window treatments if they're not included, washers, dryers, all those other things that are not included in the listing. Have the agent look in the listing and see what is included and don't ask for extras. Don't ask for a home warranty because it's going to cost $400 to $500 more. So that means your offer is going to be $400 to $500 less than every other offer there if you ask for something that the buyer doesn't want to give you. The seller, if he doesn't want to give it. So keep it clean. Keep a deposit upon acceptance, like upon acceptance, or a contract accompanying deposit. Both of those are okay. So another thing that people do is use escalation clauses in this market. And escalation clauses can be good, but don't use them if you're not in a multiple offer situation, because that's just cueing in the seller that your buyer will pay more for the house, and they probably are going to counter whatever the limit of that escalation clause is. So, but if you are in a multiple offer situation, that escalation clause can be very important. I would just say though, first up front, Mr. Buyer, we are in a multiple offer situation. Put your best foot forward. What would you really pay for that house? What would you really do? Like at what point are you willing to lose it? Because there's not much inventory on the market. So, but the escalation clause can help with that. So it does come in handy sometimes. Sometimes the seller doesn't like it, but it's there to use. It's a tool. So close on their terms. And what we mean by that is if a seller's living in the house, they might want a little longer time frame to move out. If a seller is not living in the house, they might want a shorter time frame to move out. So ask the listing agent, have the conversation with the listing agent. What's important to these people about selling this home? Is it closing date? Is it larger deposit? Is it anything? What would it be? What would the seller really want? And maybe the listing agent will help you. So be sure and talk with the listing agent. There's no replacement for communication. Communicate if at all possible. Okay. Sometimes, and I've seen this work very well, this is something that can be used. Have the buyer write an emotional letter of why he wants the house, or she. It could be that the seller has a beautiful garden and say, I just love your garden and everything that you've done with it, and that's what I love to do, and I'd love to buy your house and live and enjoy this garden and keep it up. as you have done so beautifully, or something like that. It's an emotional letter, why they want the house, right? And it does make a difference to the seller. They do care sometimes about the house. Now, if this is a transaction that's like with a bank or a relocation company, throw that idea out the window. But otherwise, with a private seller, it does work well. Okay, either waive or shorten contingencies is another thing. So, you know, our contracts in Florida say 15-day inspection period, and you can fill in 5-day inspection period or 10-day inspection period, and that will help your contract be a little bit stronger. Or how about this? They've got a deposit on the house, and after the inspections period is done and all the contingencies have been removed, that they'll put down a larger non-refundable deposit. So that would help you get that house. So there's many little ways that you can add things that will help your contract win besides just money. So money is not the only thing, but it is important. You know, cash still is king. And if you have a cash contract and it has a low deposit or a deposit coming later or a 15-day inspection period, it may not be any stronger than someone getting financing. But for heaven's sakes, if your buyer is getting financing, have a very strong pre-approval letter with your contract and as much money as those people can possibly put down for a deposit. That's what you want to do to assure that your buyers get that house. And if they're asking for closing costs, put them on top. Don't put them within the price, because the seller can do the math and the listing agent can help them do the math, but your contract's not as strong. These are my best tips today. We could come up with something new tomorrow, but today for getting your contract to win over another agent's contract. Now, I also did a video yesterday about how to win for your seller when you have multiple offer situations. So I have this one up in the corner if you'd like to watch that one. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day, and please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.